Thank you for joining us for this episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. People like me, Michelle Kane with Voice Matters, and my wonderful co host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hey, Karen, how are you?
Hello, Michelle. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Can't complain. I mean, what good does it do, right?
We would complain, but we are PR
Good.
pros. And instead of
That's right.
complaining, we spring into action. We make
That is
plans
right.
and we work our ways out of things because that's who we are.
That is right. We are problem solvers and go getters. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. It's been a while since we have talked about kind of like, how did we get here as solos? What's a way to start out as a solo PR pro? If that's something that you might be thinking of, we know the job market is bizarre. I mean, there are openings, but there are also a lot of things happening in-house in the agency world that it just makes it a time where many of you might be considering making the jump. So we're going to touch on the ABCs of becoming a solo.
Yeah, it has been a long time since we talked about this, and so many things have changed. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that people have more questions today. We are seeing a very, very different media landscape than we
Yes.
did, just even a year ago.
Yeah.
And we are seeing corporations behave differently with their own employees, and then with external hiring seems to be pretty soft.
Mhm.
So, is it still possible to succeed as a solo?
Yes. As with anything, it may be different, but absolutely you can. I know I'm seeing it in my landscape. There are some companies that are just saying, "Oh, we can do marketing." Well, you don't really have any marketers, but we'll do it. And and eventually, as you watch it, you go, "Yeah, you're going to need us eventually." But even though the landscape is changing, at its core, we are communicators, right? And that is not solely limited to gaining media placement. We are the ultimate town criers, and so there are opportunities within and certainly opportunities to be of service as your own business.
Completely agree. It's on one of my posts on LinkedIn, a PR pro, it was a post about the media landscape and
Mhm.
not chasing after the big mastheads, but going after, where the audience is.
Yeah.
And one of the PR pros, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who made this comment, and I don't want to go off camera to look, but it's on my LinkedIn. She reminded me of something that John Goldberg used to always say. She tells her clients to fish where the fish are.
Yes.
And it's true. I think that sometimes, right now we are seeing a softening of external hiring, but that doesn't mean that there's not another pond that you can, cast your reel into. So, yes, it is. I agree with you, Michelle. It's very possible to succeed as a solo today. It's very possible to still make a great income to surpass what you're making in a corporate job. You just have to cast your line in the right pond.
Yeah. It's so true. So very true. And, sometimes I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that it's always a clear path because it certainly is not. But I think there are opportunities out there. I remember saying this way back when social media was new and all the new shiny opportunities that brings, but it's something that's still true. Every company, every organization has the opportunity to be a quote unquote media company. Now, that doesn't mean that you start your own newspaper. What it means is every entity out there can own their own communication paths, like thanks to social and email marketing. You own your narrative and we are needed. And I know that can also be challenging at times for entities to come to that realization, but they generally do. And so what we have to offer, knowing how to craft a story, knowing how to get attention for things, it's needed. So just hold on to that if you're thinking of starting out.
I agree. It's about understanding what are your specialized skill sets. And I think the biggest thing that I would say is that have a plan. You
Mm,
you don't want to just make the leap because you're
right.
frustrated or because you've decided that you'd rather kind of direct your own career. That's a great starting point to be inspired to take that next step in your career to
Yeah.
start your own business, but be prepared. And this means being prepared with a strategy of how you'll market your business, being prepared with who will you serve, doing some research around that. A lot of times when people are researching starting a business, I find that they start with all the shiny stuff. They start with the
Mhm.
logo and the website and the branding, but none of those things matter if you don't have a clear path to sustainable work.
Yeah.
Do some research there. What industries are really thriving? Who is really hiring external contractors? What are they hiring for? What are the key differentiators that they're looking for? What problems are they trying to solve? How do your skill sets align? Are there areas of weakness that you need to sharpen before going out on your own? Because having a job is in your favor right now. If you have steady
Yeah.
employment, it gives you the opportunity to put away a lot of cash so that you have a cushion to guard against the ups and downs, because the ups and downs are going to come whether you have been in business 2 years or 22. It also gives you an opportunity to learn what you need before you are putting anything at risk. So take time, make a plan that encompasses all of those things, and don't be afraid to talk to people. Talk to other
Mhm.
companies about that hire, because there's no risk to you. What can they say? No, I don't want to talk to you. No, I don't
Right.
want to hop on a call, or I don't want to meet you for a cup of coffee. You're not asking them to hire you now because you have a job. You're doing your research, you're laying the groundwork, and use that opportunity of having a steady income to make real plans, because you can't just hop out there and think it's all going to happen.
Mhm. That's so true, and it's interesting when you say, speaking with people at other companies, one way to even, cultivate business is continue to look at job openings because, there are some times where you could flip that into a consulting client. It's like, "Oh, well, have you ever considered using, outside help for these services?" Because, many times companies can be sold on the fact that, "Oh, wait a second. I don't have to buy your health insurance. I don't have to pay to on" because employees can be seen as being expensive. So, there are opportunities all around. So, it doesn't hurt to make those contacts at the outset in an industry that you're interested in, even if they don't have those positions, because then when they present themselves, you may come to mind. It's all about planting the seeds and, oh my goodness, so much of it can be slow burn.
Absolutely. And, if you work in house, I definitely encourage you to look at the skills that are being sought after
Mm,
and making sure that your skills are up to date. Um, we may say that we have AI, and so you don't need to be a great writer. I disagree. You still
yeah,
need to be a great writer. You need to be a
yes.
great writer in order to use AI effectively.
Agree.
And you need to and you need to know how to use AI strategically. You need to know some of the advanced techniques. How can you use this in your workforce planning, in your workflow planning rather? How can you use it for deeper research, and how can you use it to do tasks a little bit faster than you can? So look beyond just, hey, I'm going to have AI draft this piece of content for me,
Mhm.
because that's just scratching the surface. But look at, why are people hiring? Talk to CMOs, because typically the CMO is going to be your contact at clients. So what are they looking for? Why did they hire particular agencies? And again, it's really comfortable to be in a fact finding, mode when you have a job, because you're
Yes.
able to have these conversations with an open mind. Sometimes when people are having these conversations and they're looking for work, there's a hint of desperation,
Yes.
and you miss things that can be helpful to you moving forward. And so you're not in that position. You
Yeah.
are gathering information, and you're using this information to develop a good plan. And you can even share that, like, hey, I'm making plans to start my own business, and I love to have information. I want to assure that I'm prepared. I will also tell you though, don't over prepare. Don't spend 2 years, researching,
Right.
finding a plan. I promise you it will not make it any easier if you overthink and over research. You will simply become a solo and you still will feel like your head is spinning for at least the first year. There's so many things that you can't think about that you didn't know that you would encounter that you're going to learn along the way. And no matter how prepared you are, something will always make you question. Um, I see this all the time too, and I know from personal experience, you just don't know what you don't know, and it will be exhilarating, exciting, but still overwhelming. And so, it's like getting married. You can study it, you can read the books, you can take the tests, you can go through premarital counseling, and then you get married and you wake up and you go, "So you're not going home? You live here now,
I
huh?"
have I have I have I have friends that happened to that just remembered. She said that the day after they got married, she woke up and she went, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna be here forever."
Yes, yes. And then comes the
Oh,
work of working out a relationship for the rest of your life. Well,
that's very well.
jumping into being your own business is much like that. There's so many
Yep.
things that you never even thought to learn that you will
Yes.
learn.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about doing the work, it's actually running a business, which is a
Yeah.
whole other skill set.
Oh, a whole
So,
other thing, yeah.
yeah,
And, and keeping in mind too, your business is gonna change. I
yeah,
mean, my business doesn't I mean, at its core, yes, it's communications. But when I look back to how I presented myself when I started, it's like looking at your junior high yearbook. You're cringing. I'm like, "Oh, is that
yes,
what I wrote? Oh, yuck." But that's normal in our careers, whether you're working in-house or having your own business. So, I agree, Karen. It's like get comfortable with being uncomfortable, with
yes,
that trait, but it's so true. And right, don't over prepare. There's going to be a ton you don't know, and that's okay because everyone has their specialty. And so, get to that point of kind of balance, right? Where you're like, okay, I think I'm ready to kind of strike out on my own, and I may not have it all together, but that's okay.
I love that you brought up how different your business looks because mine does too. And You know, that's a great reminder for people. I always tell people starting a career, like, don't, it's okay. Like, do what you want to do now, but realize that you have the power to change your career. You can do an absolute pivot. Like, you're not
Yeah.
stuck. You're not making a choice that has to last a lifetime. And I think sometimes we put that weight on ourselves of
Oh,
we make a
yes.
choice and that's it.
Yeah.
This is how we have to do things forever. Well, that also applies to starting your own business. Just because you start a business one way does not mean that you cannot evolve, adapt, or completely change. There are people that have been in PR, and because of their work experiences, they have naturally gravitated to other areas. Sometimes
Mhm.
they end up not being in PR, but serving the PR industry
Mhm.
or creating something out of a need that they saw. So it's really okay. I mean,
Yeah.
give yourself the grace of having a relaxed approach while still being strategic and realizing that, you know what, if things change, that's okay. You'll be equipped to handle it. You're not, this choice is not something that you're stuck with.
I agree. I agree completely. And I think that's true in any path we take. It's no longer the days of, our parents or grandparents where you get the job and you just stay in it forever, which hey, nothing wrong with that. But it's
Yeah.
just not really realistic anymore. And even I would say, when I was coming out of college, I did have that stress of, well, I can't take that position because then I'll be pigeonholed. It's so not true anymore. That may have been somewhat true then, but not now. Not now. So, we know if you're listening to this, we know you're savvy and we know you're smart, and we know that you know in your gut what is right for you. So, trust that, do your research, make a plan, and go for it.
And speaking of go for it,
Mm,
please don't keep us a secret. If you like this podcast, please, please, please do take a moment and share a link with someone that you care about.
yeah,
Share a link with clients, share it with other communication professionals. We are getting close to 300 episodes. And so we truly have not pivoted away from this labor of love. We've
we have not.
stayed and we are going the distance because we love spending this time with all of you, but we love to welcome more people into our listening family.
Yes.
So please, please, please do share with others.
Please do. We keep these episodes snack size so you can listen to them while you're on a walk or just taking a break. And so we do appreciate you for spending time with us today. And until next time, thanks for listening to That's